John, I've got every single Wi-Fi reinforcement buffer that is at my disposal. Wow, this is crazy. Is being utilized right now, and I have a very long echoey delay in my ear. This is possibly going to have some impact on our ability to conduct what will appear to the audience to be a normal conversation, but hopefully it will not be that bad, and it'll keep our stream alive because we have a very special show planned for our viewers tonight. You and I have really had an excellent time, taking advantage of the road trip. And for people who are not yet sponsors, either on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, or subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Tonight is the night that you're going to want to get on there. We have an exclusive tour. I've never seen any videos about this. I didn't know really anything about this other than what you've told me. John, why don't you fill us in on what we're going to be doing tonight when we make the transition to our sponsor exclusive segment in less than 30 minutes from right now?
Well, this is about as exciting a show as we've done. I have to apologize, first of all, to our patrons, my patrons on Patreon. Last week, we went out to Lake Mead, and I didn't post the Lake Mead trip on Patreon. I posted it on Subscribestar and not Patreon. Yeah, so the patrons are like, where the hell's the video? And I didn't realize it until earlier today, so I apologize. I fell on my sword. Yeah, that was my mistake. So, but it's up there now on Patreon, so those of you who were angry at me last week, you get a double feature this weekend. You get to see us out at Lake Mead. So the story here, let's just go quickly to the deck, and I'll set this up and explain to everybody why this is so special and so unique. First of all, on Twitter, I picked up a couple more followers, about 100 more followers this week on Twitter. And I recently posted a little video, like a little 2-minute video, both on Twitter and on YouTube, about what were the field hospitals really for? And I keep harping on this. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about what were the biggest cover-ups of all time. Right? So we talked about the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King, etc., all these different things that happened. And to me, this next slide in the deck this is the biggest cover-up, I think, of all time. And very few people know the story. And sort of the way it manifests, the way you become aware of it, was the field hospitals. And this is where I have to tip the hat to Shepard Ambellas, a friend of ours. Shepard Ambellas made a film called Shackled to Silence, where he spoke to Jason, spoke to me. And Shepard came on our show, I guess it was April 4th or April 5th of 2020, and said, guys, something else is going on. There's a whole nother narrative here. There's like a counter narrative that you're not aware of. And he starts talking about mobilization of the National Guard. And you and I were like looking at each other like, what the heck is he talking about? Where's he getting this from? And sure enough, President Trump says this is the biggest call-up of the National Guard since D-Day, confirming what Shepard said on the show with us. So what was going on? Well, we deployed field hospitals across the United States. And the question is, why did we put 4 field hospitals in Rhode Island? We had them everywhere. Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia. You name it. And that's not just the United... Pardon?
Did any of them take COVID patients? It feels like every or most of them just say, oh, yeah.
Sounds like what they may have done was gone through a cycle with a patient or two that was a veteran, because these were Army hospitals. So if you take a general who's a veteran, right, you take a retired general who has COVID, you just put him through the protocol, right, just to make sure everything's working and that they get treated the way, so you could claim that you had a patient or two. And there was a story or two about a 70-year-old man who was treated at Javits. So the point is, they put all these field hospitals up, but the bigger issue is when they put them away. May 1st. Like, but May 1st of 2020. I just had to use
the recover broadcast function, John. So, all right, it's a good thing we have that, but I don't know what is up with the internet in every single friggin' hotel I'm staying at, but I hope we're still live here. I think we are. Keep going.
All right. We may have to call Paris Hilton and switch allegiances from one family to the other if we, sign on with the Hilton family.
No, we've got it.
We need to talk to Paris.
I think it's good.
Right,
we're still going. Paris.
All right. So the net of this is these field hospitals are deployed not just across the United States. They're deployed across Europe, Australia, Italy, Czechoslovakia, or what used to be Czechoslovakia, right? They're all over the place. NHS Nightingale on the Thames, 4,000 temporary beds. So this happens globally. And then what happens? On May 1st of 2020, we put them all away. Why would you do that? You just put them all up. You just put them all up, and the deadline to have them all up was April 20th. And you put them away on May 1st? And you put them away on May 1st?
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
If it's the biggest call up in the National Guard since D-Day, and these things stood for less than 15 days, what's that about?
They boxed out all the wedding expos and dog shows.
Car shows, boat shows. Yeah, I mean, every convention center
by the way,
effectively was, yeah.
Doesn't it look exactly the same except with curtains around it instead of curtains behind it? It's just a trade show that they're setting up.
They're turning a convention center into a hospital, and they turned it into a 4,000 bed hospital. So what were they anticipating? Well, later in the year, let's go to the next slide of my deck. Later in the year, I broke a story in the middle of the night, New York time. Like at 4 o'clock in the morning, New York time, I'm awake doing the stuff that I do. And what I found was I was poking around on the JPL website, and they had just posted what they call the ephemeral data, which is the orbit data for a new thing, or for NEO. And it had just passed, just hours earlier. In fact, it passed New York time at 5 p.m. By the time JPL puts it in the system and it's available on the website, it was about 1 in the morning New York time. I see it and go, oh my God, that's the closest asteroid to miss the Earth ever recorded in history. And I made a video about that. And the video was called, Did You Almost Just Die Again? Because this was in November of 2020. And I was looking...
Any corporate news coverage of this, or not really, as usual? I didn't hear anything about it other than what you said.
And what's interesting is there were all these other stories about asteroids and meteors. Big ones, but they're nowhere near us. Millions of miles away. Who cares about that? I want to know about the ones that are passing between us and the moon. Those are getting a little close for comfort, right? So if they
also,
pass
they tested that DART.
Mm-hmm. So DART just happened about, I don't know, less than a week ago. A week ago. Yeah. I think it was the 7th or the 8th. So DART happened.
Wait a minute. Have you seen this? When you search, this is quite interesting. I was intrigued by this, but then when I first saw it, somebody told me, oh yeah, that old thing. That happens all the time. If you search Google, let's just do this real quick. You type in NASA DART in Google, and look at what happens.
Mm-hmm.
that thing flies by and dents your
And smashes into the
whatever.
thing. Very nice.
Good, crashing into a rock.
So they're very
They say
proud
they
of themselves. And this
Do
real,
we know that they have?
yeah, that's great. And
Oh
I'm
man, look at how
certain
much
they
this
did.
thing
You know,
costs. Come on, John. The whole story is nonsense.
No. It's not nonsense. The cost is hysterical, right? You gotta love it.
But
You
come
gotta
on.
love it. Well, they're not all the same number. If they were all the same number,
Yeah.
then I'd do a cartwheel. No, I mean, what are you gonna? You win.
330
You
million.
win. You win this round. We go to the bonus round. All right. So the point is, Dart hits the thing. And it impacts. This happens a week ago. This is massive. This is planetary defense. This is huge. Except we don't see them coming. That's kind of a big problem. So DART is great when you know they're coming, like Apophis 99942. We know that's coming. We just don't know where it's coming because of something called the three-object problem.
The
three-object problem. Correct. Or the three-body problem. It's probably the three-body problem in Wikipedia. So in Wikipedia, it's called the three-body problem, or the three-body problem. And the three-body problem is that gravity works on all these objects simultaneously. And as the objects are moving around, we can't calculate this. And it was actually just broken within the last year or two by two mathematicians. This has been like a paradox that we couldn't figure out. We couldn't figure out how to calculate the three-body problem. But there's not three asteroids. There's 3 million asteroids. Right. So if we can't calculate three or just figured out the math, there you go. So they just figured it out. There's the math. They just figured this thing out just recently.
Wow.
For three objects.
Wow.
For three. Okay. Can you see three? Three objects. Here's the math.
I bet you like a quantum artificial intelligence thing could figure all of this out in an afternoon.
They've been trying. This is incredibly complex stuff. Now, you take all the asteroids. This is why when people say you can't believe NASA, this is the part where I'll say, yeah, I don't really believe the projections. So when they say that 99942 Apophis is going to miss the Earth by they can't calculate three objects.
Right.
So
they can't really calculate the weather very well.
Exactly. Sometimes. So as this thing comes in, they can't calculate the impact that Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, they're not on top of this. They can't figure it out because of this. This is the why. This is why I don't trust NASA. So it's not that I don't trust NASA. It's they can't figure out how 1,500 objects interact with each other, let alone 15,000. So let's move on back to the deck because we only have a few more minutes before we have to go patron only. So the point here is there's things you can trust NASA about, there's things you can't. That's something I'm not that comfortable with. Now, here's why. In the last 8 weeks, in the last 60 days, how many asteroids have passed between the Earth and the Moon?
Gotta be 2 or 3.
It's on the screen in front of you. 14. In the last 8 weeks. 14 asteroids in 8 weeks. That's more than one a week. So you're telling me that every week a rock is flying.
Wait. Where this? Oh, here we go. 2022.
Well, go back up to the top. I'll tell you what you're looking at right here. Hang on. Let me tell you exactly what you're looking at. All right. This one is sorted by the closest approaches in history. So it's sorted by the fourth column, CA distance nominal unit. So if you scroll down, see CA distance nominal, that is how close was the meteor. And the first one is 2020 VT4. And that passed on November 13th at 1721 Greenwich, which is about 5 o'clock your time, or 5 o'clock Greenwich.
Uh-huh.
So 5 p.m. Greenwich time.
Right.
On November 13th. That's the closest in history. That's the video I made. Did you almost just die again?
Right.
Was documenting that asteroid. As of today, it's still the closest one to pass the Earth ever in history, ever in recorded history. And we go to the next slide. This is futurism, and futurism is documenting the COVID field hospital, how nice they sound, right? So again, this is the pitch. This is the spin. Jump ahead to the next slide. I don't want to spend too much. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So the military's medical relief valves remain mostly empty in New York, and here's why. So the military set these things up, and on May 1st, they put them away.
But they also had the
next
boat.
slide. Yeah, and the boat. The two boats. One in L.A., right? One was in Los Angeles, and one was in New York. One was in whatever that harbor is in L.A. I forget the name of it. Javits and USNS Comfort have a combined 110 patients. I'd be willing to bet that they're all active service or veteran generals.
What are you trying to tell me? That an overflow of 110 people is going to destroy the New York City medical system? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Because they weren't for COVID, and they were put away after 15 days. They were May 1st. The decommissioning began May 1st, 2020. And to me, that's the red flag. If you guys kept these things up for a year and a half, you'd have some credibility. You can't go through something that's this massive and then put them away in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right, jump ahead. Next slide.
Doesn't seem too logical.
Well, exactly. So the next slide is really kind of the gist of this, which was Don't Look Up, kind of a documentary, a docudrama. And when you think about, well, who put this thing together? Who put this movie together about an asteroid colliding with Earth and cast Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett, Jonah Hill.
Who's this?
Holy
this
mackerel.
looks like Ariana Grande.
I think that's who it is. I think that is who it is.
Why don't they have a name in her, and what is she doing in this movie?
I mean, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise are the only people who aren't on the cast in this movie. I mean, this is a who's who of Hollywood. These are the biggest names in Hollywood right now. Go to the next scene. The next slide is the scene where everybody's laughing as these guys are talking about this. Right? It's absurd.
The Daily Rip.
An asteroid. Yeah, I mean, it's absurd, right? It's not going to happen. Well, when Shepard came on the show and told us all this stuff, I started digging in. What I realized was it already happened. Shepard came on the show April 4th or 5th. One week earlier, we had an impact in Akure, Nigeria. March 28th of 2020, a week before Shep was on the show. So we're sitting here thinking, what the hell's he talking about? And it had already hit. He didn't know it. I didn't know it. You didn't know it. But I started to dig in. Mm-hmm.
Look at this. This is so now I think we can reveal to our viewers we're obviously not going to leave where we are right now and go to the crater. We've been there already. The show was recorded several days ago, and we're going to run it when we begin the sponsor exclusive segment.
I wanted to do that snap your fingers thing. I wanted to do the snap your fingers
will realize
thing and just show up there.
While we're still here on YouTube and looking at this image of the crater in Akure, Nigeria, I encourage people to pay particular attention to this part. The dirt seems different color and texture, and the steepness of this side versus this side. I mean, it's difficult to really make an accurate evaluation with a monoscopic photo of this hole, but it's interesting. There's a number of things that people are going to be able to observe at the Barringer crater, right? Barringer. Anyway,
Indeed.
that we talk about, which
That's right.
Look at that stuff.
So a year and a half ago, Jason and I went to Las Vegas to walk around the venue. And I said to Jason a year and a half ago, if we come back here, we have to go to Barringer Crater. It's not that far from Vegas. And we have to visit. This is the largest meteor crater that's been preserved on Earth. I mean, there may be one that's bigger, that's underneath an ice cap or something, but you can't
could
see
be the
it.
Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, right. The Chicxulub crater, right, is bigger, but you can barely make out where that is. This is a preserved meteor crater in Arizona, near the Grand Canyon. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's near Winslow, Arizona, which is like not much of a town. We got gas in Winslow. And, you know,
Oh,
what
I
can
like
tell
that
you?
town. They had much cheaper gas because it was a reservation, right?
Something like that. So, but the net of it is this is a massive crater, and we've been talking about these impact zones and asteroids and meteors, and I broke the story of 2020 VT4 in November. I rolled that video for Laura Ingram showing the 3D movement, and that's now published on YouTube on the Johnny Hoover channel. So for those of you who go to Johnny Hoover, you'll find a video that says what were the field hospitals really for. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes long, but it shows that exclusive 3D model of the asteroids converging on Earth, and that's in that video on the Johnny Hoover channel right now. I think I published that just earlier today. So this gives you something that's rather short that explains what was going on. And this happened, this convergence event was April 28th. And that explains why they would put the field hospitals away on May 1st. They thought it was over.
Huh.
So what do you think?
Well, for people who aren't yet, I think it's amazing. And I mean, I'm excited for everybody to see our journey to the crater. For people who aren't yet subscribed to the John E. Hoover YouTube channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Get on there. You can watch simulcasts of all the videos that John and I do together. Plus, he's got a ton of content that he creates on there. Lots of interesting interviews, his bedtime stories, and of course, his classic work. Here's another one of our trips to Vegas. Lots of stuff for people to see on the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. John, we're almost out of time. We're going to be making our transition to subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. At those websites, our YouTube viewers, our Rumble viewers, our Odyssey viewers, our Getter viewers, our VK.com viewers, you have an opportunity to sponsor this show. You're eliminating the corporate stranglehold on information in this and other countries around the world. And by directly sponsoring the show, you're guaranteed that there is no corporate sponsor paying John or I to have some kind of influence on what we're talking about. We just go all over the place and show up places, mostly where people don't want to talk to us, stick our noses into the business, and that happens at this crater. So if you're a fan of craters, if you're a fan of the show, if you just want to see John and I joking around, hanging out at gift shops, oh no, we didn't.
I think
we went into the gift shop and
have to remove
contemplated buying rocks, but we didn't. What were you gonna say?
There you go.
Oh, you did get that at the. Right, I forgot about that. Keep calm. It's just a meteor. And with that, I would encourage people to join us. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes on Subscribestar and Patreon, and I think people are going to really enjoy this video. It's another one of these things that's amazing to see, but yet there was hardly anybody there when we went there. We'll be back in 5 minutes, everybody. Join us at the crater. It's an amazing giant hole.